Walter, Myers, Howard, Redlin, Thompson.
Here, come in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, anybody signed in for public comment tonight? None. Okay, we'll move on to 3 presentations and proclamations. We've got a couple tonight. We're going to recognize some of our athletes from the high school tonight, starting with the Cowgirl Basketball State Championship team. Whereas the City of Goodland celebrates the winning title of state champions for the Goodland Cowgirls basketball team and wishes to honor them for their hard work, dedication, and athleticism. And whereas the Goodland Cowgirls varsity basketball team won Friday's neutral state championship playoff game against Yucatan by a score of 48-47. And whereas head coach Bill Bierman and the entire coaching staff, team member parents, faculty, and student body at Goodland High School were integral in guiding the team to victory through their unwavering support. And whereas citizens of Goodland and fans of Goodland High School athletics are proud of the accomplishments thus far of the Goodland Cowgirls basketball team. And whereas the City of Goodland commends the Goodland Cowgirls for their teamwork, athleticism, and grace in the sport of basketball and wishes them well in their future endeavors. Now, therefore, I, Aaron Thompson, Mayor of Goodland, and the entire City Commission do heartily congratulate the Goodland Cowgirls varsity basketball team and recognize April 4th as Goodland Cowgirls State Championship Day. You want to do a picture now? You want to do it for all of them? Do a picture at the end?
Why don't you do a picture now?
Let's do it. All right, everybody's here on the team. Want to come up for a picture? We'll take a picture right here.
Stand by.
Coach, you want to come up to the game?
Come on up, you guys. Come on up.
Come on now. You won 3-8. All classes.
Because of you. Despite
Emma, you got it.
Thank you.
Thanks for recognizing. Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. And we also have a state champion wrestler. Whereas the City of Goodland celebrates the winning title of Class 4A state champion wrestler Dexter Dottle and wishes to honor him for his hard work, dedication, and athleticism. And whereas Dexter Dottle of Goodland won the 220-pound weight class state championship with a 4-2 decision over Riley Marks from Andale. Whereas head coaches Jonathan Wisnat and Joseph Stramick, team member parents, faculty and student body at Goodland High School were integral in guiding Dexter to victory through their unwavering support. And whereas citizens of Goodland and fans of Goodland High School athletics are proud of the accomplishments thus far of the Goodland Cowboys wrestling team, and especially Dexter Dottle for his achievement of becoming a state champion in the 220-pound weight class in wrestling. And whereas the City of Goodland commends Dexter Dottle for his dedication, hard work, athleticism, and perseverance in the sport of wrestling, and wishes him well. Now, therefore, I, Aaron Thompson, Mayor of Goodland, and the entire City Commission do heartily congratulate Dexter Dottle on his outstanding accomplishment and recognize April 4th as Goodland Cowboys State Championship Day. Good job.
We need to make that amendment to 3A, or is it?
I'll come up for a picture. Good job. Coach? Yeah, thank you guys
Thanks,
very much.
guys.
And we have one more proclamation tonight. It's also National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week for April 10th through the 16th, 2022. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services. And whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone Sherman County 911 communications, and whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunicators of Sherman County 911 communications have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Therefore, be it resolved that the City Commission of Goodland, Kansas declares the week of April 10th through 16th, 2022 to be National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in honor of the women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. So thank you guys. Come up for a picture too.
Just gonna keep pushing it back.
Thank you guys. I have now said whereas more today than I have in the last 10 years. Okay, well, we will move on to the consent agenda. We have A, the 3/21/22 Commission meeting minutes, and B, the appropriation ordinances of 2022-07, 2022-07A, and 2022-P07. I would entertain a motion to approve.
I move that we approve consent agenda items A and B.
I have a motion by Commissioner Redlin,
I'll second.
a second by Commissioner Howard. Any other further discussion? Roll, please.
Howard,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Redlin,
Yes.
Showalter,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Okay, nothing under formal actions. We will move on to discussion items, starting with the mobile food vendor ordinance. Kent?
Mayor Thompson and commission members, this was ordinance to, and it's just for discussion, and we had it in last meeting's packet, but the commission wanted to table it so they could have a little bit more time to take a look at it and have a good grasp of it. The current code only addresses solicitor, canvassers, or peddlers. It doesn't really address mobile food vendors or other mobile vendors, where the customer visits the vendor instead of the vendor visiting people's houses. And that's basically the difference at this point. So there was some brief discussion at the meeting, which is included in the communication form from last meeting. There was a little bit of discussion regarding sound requirements, or if this is for all locations or just downtown. Staff recommendation is that it should be for the entire city, not just for the downtown commercial district. A little bit of discussion regarding time limitations and penalty section, and if there should be pre-approved locations, especially on public property. So that was the beginning of discussion regarding it, but the commissioners wanted to have a little bit more time to look it over. So staff just stands for questions about how we could make the ordinance what would be the best thing for Goodland. So.
Okay, any thoughts, anybody?
One thing I had questioned, only because I had just had the health department come in to see me this week, in regards to mobile food vending. We talk about the fees, $25 fee. If I'm not mistaken, I'd have to double check on this, but she made a comment that technically you can put up a vendor or a mobile food truck for 10 days without needing a health license. And so, and I know when we went through the reading that we have to they have to prove that they have this said license from the health department. And so I didn't know if that would be because we do have the 1 week for $25 that would actually be for that 10 days. And I didn't know if that would be a question that somebody might bring up.
Is that something Jay can speak to?
The state's not going to require it, so under your home rule statutes and stuff, you can always make things more restrictive, you can't loosen them. So, same idea, right? So you can't, if you want to, you can say, look, the state might only require you to have a health check, whatever, health license, if you're gonna be up and operating for 10 days. We, being Goodland, cannot then pass an ordinance saying, yeah, but you can do it for 30 days here. That they won't let you loosen. You can be more restrictive. Good example is like tobacco laws, right? Some counties changed their tobacco laws to where you had to be 21. Some of them left it at 18.
Okay.
Okay, so the state, same idea. So
Okay.
you can make it more restrictive if you wish, but at the same time, you can't open up more of that. So it's going to be up to you guys.
So what are your, I know you're just kind of being curious, but what are your thoughts on that then? As in, should we go ahead and require that a license regardless?
That's because they can technically, well, from what, if I'm understanding the health department correctly, is you can do it for 10 days without having a license from them. So just, I mean, I feel like if we're gonna do it, we have to do it for the whole group, the whole thing, just make it easier, paperwork wise. If somebody comes in, but I just brought that much to my attention because I just spoken with them this week. And so I just want to bring that up. But I do believe just for paperwork purposes, it's going to be easier. Just stay with the licensing fees that we have here.
Yeah, I agree with that. Any other thoughts?
I think when I talked in the section we had it marked as a question that we wanted answered as far as written permission of the property owner. I don't feel like they, if it's somebody that's, consistently going to the same place like the barbecue trailer at Walmart, that he needs to go get a written permission every time he's going to be out there. So I feel like one time is probably plenty until that property owner, withdraws that.
Where's that at?
It's under section B.
Yeah.
Or at least get a yearly.
Yearly consent.
Yeah, yearly consent.
If they have like a list of date ranges on there, you
Yeah,
know,
you
this is
know.
good for this year or 2
Per
years or
year,
whatever.
yeah.
To speak to that from an enforcement standpoint.
Yeah.
I would probably side, just again, as understand, they might not have dates out there as far as, okay, for the entire year, this is what we intend on doing. However, to get their license from us, same idea, if I only pay the $25 and therefore I get a mobile food vendor license for a week, then why do we care that they have permission to be there for the rest of the year? The idea being though, when they come and if they want to get their license, right, then they should probably present that they have permission to be at those places if they know where they're gonna be. Does that make sense?
That's a good point.
And so once they've shown you, yes, I have permission to be here, an officer shouldn't have to go by there every time to make sure, yeah, but today, do you still have permission? I think after that point, at least we know that the owner of that private property is on notice, that somebody is gonna be here, and it probably should be their responsibility then to ensure that somebody's not trespassing on their property. Because we're not giving them permission to be there. It's the idea that the property owners should probably be a little more on the responsible side of that, to ensure that, okay, I told you you could do this for a week, I drove by 2 weeks later, you're still there. And then that's when the owner has the right to call the police and say, no, they're not supposed to be here at this time. Kind of going back to Ann's concern, paperwork wise, as long as they can confirm they're supposed to be there when they start, then again, I don't want us to have to keep track of every dates and every week for every vendor, you know.
Right.
I think the other question I had under the list of exemptions where it says the brick and mortar restaurants already operating, so I might understand that, like if Ann wants to go operate a mobile food truck within town, she doesn't have to have a license, because she already operates a brick and mortar.
Right, there might be still, fill out paperwork, doesn't need a formal license, but let us know where you're gonna be at and stuff like that.
I'm good with that, I think that makes sense, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
I think if you're already doing business in Goodland and Sherman County, you shouldn't have to get another license to continue to operate here.
No.
Any other thoughts? So one of the things that we had discussed last time was as far as noise. You know, and on here, we just have it between, the hours of, 10 in the morning and 8 is basically, just the standard noise ordinance of the city is what we're falling under.
Right.
Is that everybody okay
makes
with that?
sense,
We
yeah.
had kind of some discussion as whether, you get 3 food trucks all running generators in one area, if that was gonna be too much. Again, I don't know how we would be able to control that, I just wanna make sure that we're okay with, just as long as it's falling within the guidelines of the stated noise ordinance, that it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, under D, under the lights, have them look on here, we're unsure if this is applicable. In accordance with the city zoning regulations, no flashing lights or attention attracting devices are permitted on or in association with the use of mobile food units. No direct light from a mobile food unit may be shined on adjacent property or cause a glare or distraction for vehicles, bicycles, or pedestrians. Is that something that we feel like we should leave in there, or is it unnecessary for this ordinance?
I feel like the minute we take it out, we're gonna have somebody that's gonna come up with flashing lights to get their truck noticed. I mean,
And when you're going to these events, like, I know you go to a lot of the state fairs and stuff, what do they state about that?
there's nothing, and none of them really have the lights at all. It's just, they just have their interior lights for their working at night. So I've never really come across it myself, so.
So we feel like that's something we should stay in here.
I feel like it doesn't hurt to have it there.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
Ultimately, what I encourage you is, instead that they're there, okay, this is what we were talking about, I'm glad we got it, versus come back later, okay, we're gonna have to add this now.
Sure.
I'm not one to advocate for making laws and things for things you don't need, but at the same time, this is probably one of those that practically speaking, it's foreseeable. It's something you can see, all right, I could see somebody showing up and having a strobe light or something, and then you have to address it after that.
Somebody somewhere has run into this issue, and this is how they addressed it.
Almost like the carnival trucks, ones that have the games. They
Yeah.
always have that kind of stuff, and you never know, you could put it on a food truck, I suppose.
What about the hours of operation? Currently have from 8 to 8 in here for hours of operation. We feel like that's good time. Is 8 in the evening too early in the evening? Feel like that's right?
I feel like it depends on the time of the year.
Yeah.
So like, is this going to like also affect like fair? Or is that not considered?
Fair's listed in the exemptions.
Yes,
Is it?
it's an
Okay,
exemption.
okay.
And the fair would be okay at the fairgrounds, but as far as other parts of town, that's made where the time frame comes into operation. They have some sort of endpoint so you don't have, so the police officers don't have to deal with that.
So we want to spend those hours past 8 in the evening? So I kind of feel like you, like in the middle of summer,
It's,
8 o'clock almost feels like it's too early.
yeah, yes. It's not getting dark until 7:45,
Yeah.
starting to get dark. And then, but yet in the wintertime, it's dark at 5:30.
If that's the case, then we're probably gonna need the lights.
Yeah.
That'd make more sense.
Well, as long as they're not flashing.
Yeah.
So what do we feel would be a better time? 9, 10?
I would go with 9.
I would go with 9 myself, too.
I'm gonna adjust that from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m.
So if we do 9 there, we need to go back down to the noise ordinance to at least 9.
I think isn't the noise ordinance already set until 8?
It's actually 10 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's 10 o'clock, the noise ordinance.
I don't make much noise, so I don't know when that time is.
So do we need to just change that to 10 then? On the noise ordinance, on the sound?
You mean the 9?
Well, it's the city's 10.
10 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Yeah.
We're 9, since we're trying to close them down at 9, sounds like. But they may need the power to
Clean up.
clean up.
They don't have.
Does the noise ordinance start at 10 a.m.?
Is that when it starts?
No, I think it starts actually at 7.
7.
Yeah.
You can't mow your lawn before 7.
Yeah.
It's like you tell my husband to go do it.
Wait, you're telling him before 7 to go do
Yeah.
it? Huh.
And if I heard you right, Brooke, you said at 9, shut it down at 9?
That's what we were thinking, yes.
Okay, the reason I put in the 8 o'clock, the reason I did that was to allow them, like you said, the opportunity to keep their generators going, whatever, so they could clean up and stuff like that, and it wouldn't go past the ordinance.
Just going off of our regular ordinance.
Correct.
Which is 10 o'clock, right?
Correct.
So if we had our hours run from 8 in the morning till 9 p.m., but left the noise ordinance in effect until 10, they give them an hour to clean up after they close business. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna do it very quietly.
Yes, very quietly.
Church mouse after 10.
So we would want to adjust our sound devices that are here from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. then?
Agreed.
Okay, I'll just kind of go back, start at the beginning, some of the things that are highlighted in yellow, which is changes or additions or questions as far as what's required on on the licensing, email addresses, is that something that feel like is necessary to have on the license? If we have name and phone number and address and everything else, I know a lot of people use email addresses for a lot of things. Is that something we want to require on the application?
Probably wouldn't hurt.
It's an issue.
Okay. As far as proof of a valid driver's license from any state, is that okay?
Yeah.
Have any problem with that? Okay. Everybody okay with the fee schedule that's on there? Have a week being $25, a month being $60, 6 months for $200, and an annual fee for $400. Because I know, like in the ordinances, as far as solicitors and campsters and peddlers, the only thing in there is $5 a day, I believe, is the only kind of fee schedule as far as everything else. So this is kind of pitted in a whole different fee schedule than every other sort of solicitor. Is that what we want to do with that, or we want to make things a little more cohesive all the way across, adjust one thing one way, or maybe we can look at the solicitors and peddlers ones later to kind of adjust that to match if we want, or we can leave them completely separate. I just know they're very different, they're completely different things.
Mr. Brown, your thoughts?
I like the initial set of fees. The annual fee, that's probably going to be more than someone will want to do, but as far from a fee perspective.
Mm-hmm.
What you truly want them to do is be able to operate in your city and generate the sales tax. That's where we're going to get the recompense for what they're doing. We're not going to be able to balance some part of the budget because of a $400 fee, for this type of vending. But you do want it to make it, we do have our brick and mortar restaurants, they put in a lot of investment in order to be here. So you just don't want some fly-by-night operators coming by and setting up shop and not having to do things.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree that we need to have fees of some sort on there. I just wondering if we feel like we need to adjust one or the other to make it so that the fees to come in and be a peddler or solicitor of every other kind of craft or where you're doing is just $5 a day, and that's your only thing. And this is such a different scale based on weeks or months or 6 months, or I just want to know if we want to make some consistency between the two.
I think that you're expecting to make more money from a mobile food vendor type of situation than being a peddler. A peddler going door to door, which you did a very, very long time ago, there was not an expectation of making a huge amount with that. So, and there's different expectations from what our concerns are regarding the vending that is occurring. So I don't see the difference as far as the initial fee, $25 versus $5 being a concern, but the annual fee seems a little bit out of range. If we would even have one end up doing it, so. Because that would be an awful lot of days of peddling to make it to 400, so.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have any problem reducing the annual and the 6-month fee. I think those are probably high. I think maybe something that comes in closer to 100 and 300 might make more sense.
I can see what the response is once it's instituted.
I mean, so if you take the 25 and they're paying that for 52 weeks, that's $1,300 is what they would be paying if they did that. So I don't know. I feel like the 400's a good discount.
Yeah, as far as the dollar amounts, I think I'm okay with what they are on here, personally. But
Well, I mean, I go to trade shows and I pay $200 for 2 days, but.
yeah.
So it's,
It's settled then.
right.
Yeah. So we just want to leave it the way it is, and if
I think
somewhere
so.
down the line, maybe some issue comes up as far as one side or the other and what people are paying and they complain, we can deal with it then.
I think it's a good start.
Okay. As far as zoning classifications, M1. What is M1? So you had the downtown commercial and the rest of the commercial, and then there was M1. I don't know if that was
I
a
think that needs to be
leftover from the.
removed. Yes,
Okay.
leftover, yes.
I was like, I don't know if we were going to make a mobile zoning. I mean, I wasn't real sure what it was.
It's an overlay district, yes.
Okay, operations. So under terms and transferability at the end, we have licenses issued under this chapter are available for periods of 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 6 months, or annual. We need to get rid of that 1 day if we're only doing
We're just doing weekly,
fees starting at a week at a time.
Yes.
That
Yes.
probably needs to come out of there. As far as exemptions, I think those are fine. I don't think I have anything else on that.
No, looks good.
You guys all good on that? Do we want to have them input the changes we've made and bring it back next meeting?
Ready for formal action next meeting?
Sounds good.
We will do that.
Okay,
Thank you.
awesome, thank you. Okay, next we will move on to B, chickens. Okay, so we had ordinance we had some changes that we had requested last meeting that were put into the ordinance. Ever had a chance to look over this over the weekend? What's everybody's thoughts on this?
There's two things that are not included that should have been included that was pointed out to me before you start discussing everything. One is that there should be fencing in the backyard as far as where the coop is. It shouldn't be just an open yard regarding the coop.
Under the
As
housing
far as like
section?
Section 9 and Section 11. It kind of infers it, but it doesn't state it explicitly. Or as far as the questions that came up with it, 9 and 11. But the housing of chickens within the actual ordinance.
I only see 10 sections.
That's in the actual ordinance. That was in the questions
Oh,
before
I'm sorry.
that.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. I started leading you astray at the start. And then the other thing was the inspection. One thing you had mentioned last time was making the inspections one time only at the beginning and not every other year. And I don't think that was changed properly in the actual ordinance presented.
I see every 2 years.
Yeah. So there should be language that says just at the initiation. So apologize for that didn't get corrected in the actual ordinance before you, but it is still just for discussion at this point.
Anybody have any other thoughts on where things sit?
So I really feel like, I've kind of been back and forth on this issue since we started talking about it. It was not something when we first started talking about it that I really felt like I had strong feelings on either way, and that's one of the reasons why I thought, you know, having public comment and public opinion was so important to me, because, you know, I really wanted some direction on where we were going to go with this. You know, and I talked to somebody who wanted chickens, and I talked to them, and the things that they'd said make sense. And I think after that, you know, if we voted right now, I'd vote for it. And I talked to people who didn't want chickens, and by the end, I thought, well, that makes sense. I don't want chickens. So, you know, it's for me, it's really gone back and forth. And I think if we voted for it, you know, at any time in the last 3 or 4 weeks, it might have been something different about every night. You know, I was watching American Pickers the other night, a TV show I like to watch, and you know, they went in to pick a car at an old chicken coop, and they walked in. They said, you know, it didn't smell very good in here. And I understand that chicken coop is probably something that's not a you know, a volume at anything that we would allow within the city. But one thing that kind of caught me when they were talking was, you know, an average hen produces 7 to 10 pounds of manure every month. And if we're allowing potentially 6 chickens, you know, in somebody's backyard, so that's, you know, 60 pounds of manure at the house behind me. And I don't have an alley, so I've got 3 people that live directly behind me, so we're talking potentially 180 pounds of manure every month. You know, I think when Megan and her group come in and they say they want us to consider this, I think what those groups want, what Megan wants, is to be heard. She wants us to carefully consider and not shuffle the papers aside and say, you know, I'm not even going to consider this. You know, this has been brought before the city commission, you know, several times before. There hasn't been a vote. I support the ordinance going forward to a formal vote, but I think I've decided that I'm going to vote no on it. But I support them in the idea that we need to carefully consider, and I think that that's what they've gotten through the last few months, and I hope that they've seen that as, you know, this has gone farther than anything has ever gone before, and, you know, we put due diligence and due effort in. We didn't shut it aside and say, you know, I don't want to hear what you have to say. We've listened, and I don't know how everybody's going to vote, but, you know, I wanted to say that even though I support that going forward, I will vote no.
Thank you, Jason. Any other thoughts? Anybody from the audience wish to speak up tonight?
She's looking at you, Travis.
Well, I don't really know. I've not really heard too much about it until just recently, and then it was kind of like, that would be maybe kind of nice as food prices increase. So we were mainly just coming to kind of find out where you guys were at on that. But I mean, I guess I never thought about the amount of waste. Yeah. So I mean, we're naive, so we're just kind of coming to hear. But it sounds like an interesting idea. I don't know we'd be completely opposed to it, but we're just kind of interested, I guess.
And I know that that's not what you guys want to hear from me, and it takes a lot of courage to come and stand before a commission and make that. But you know, I have to say where I stand, and that's where I'm at. So
I appreciate it.
yeah, it takes a lot of courage to come and make those requests. So thank you for doing that.
So the limit would be 6, is that what you guys said?
That's in the proposed ordinance.
That's the proposed, okay.
I assume no roosters that make a lot of noise, right?
Yeah, no roosters.
There's no roosters.
So is it something that if the smell got too bad, neighbors could complain and you have to clean it up?
Sure, or face a penalty.
I mean, I suppose in that regard, it probably wouldn't be any different than a yard full of dogs
Yeah.
Exactly.
that are allowed to poop all over the yard and never gets cleaned up, you know, it's kind of the same thing.
And if you clean it up, there is no smell.
Right.
They're not, it's not a long lasting.
Yeah, it's
Most things
just
comes down to responsibility.
irresponsibility is what
Ultimately,
leads to the smell.
yeah.
So the smell could be taken care of, is I guess what I'm saying, because we could clean it up.
Correct.
Okay.
I think mainly our purpose, the way I've been viewing this entire process is, our purpose is not necessarily to, like, you know, we want to be able to provide chickens to people who want chickens. but write it in a way to where if they become a nuisance to the neighbors, that the neighbors still can have a say in, you know, the overall effect of their property.
You know, it's one of them decisions that if you say yes, you say no, you're not gonna please everybody. And the way I look at it, there's been a lot of people say they want them, a lot of people say they don't want them. What do I do? Trying to figure out what's best for Goodland. You just don't know. Sometimes I wish I could just abstain from not voting on it.
I think when we first asked for public comment, I thought, well, you know, we're gonna see one, you know, it's gonna be obvious what the community wants. For me anyway, it hasn't been that way. It's been a 50-50 split for me. I think, you know, there are passionate people on both sides of the issue.
So I have a question about, so ultimately, if this ordinance was passed, it would be the code enforcement's, I guess, responsibility. But what happens after hours? What happens at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night when chickens are roaming the streets? I mean, is that something that we as a police department are gonna have to, you know, handle like we do dogs? Or, that's not saying I'm for or against, that's just a question that popped up. You know, it's like, what happens after hours? You know, do you have any suggestions on that?
I mean, I suppose ultimately it probably would be handled just like a dog, you know, other animals that were loose after hours, you know.
Can I answer that?
Sure.
Sure.
So chickens, they nest at night, so they go into a coop, or if they can't get in their coop, they'll find a corner or whatever they can find a nest, so you won't have them roaming at night, per se. It would be very rare if they ever did. At sundown, they pretty much go in.
And somebody's in their coop.
Unless somebody's in their coop, and then they're gonna go flying out and find another place to nest.
Or they're teenage chickens.
Yeah. And I feel like it's one of those things ultimately, you know, we have within the ordinance here, there's pretty strict guidelines about what somebody has to have in place in order to have their chickens. You know, and as long as their guidelines are followed, there should never be an issue with chickens out running around in the middle of the night. That being said, nothing's ever followed by everybody's routine all the time, you know, and we understand that. But at this point, I think ultimately it would probably fall on your hands to try to determine whose chickens they are if you can, or, I mean, whatever you do to gather them up.
Have you ever tried to catch a chicken?
Yeah, I have not.
I thought you had that test for the academy.
I'd be willing to give it a try.
Just like Rocky Balboa.
I think I always try to look through, you know, the lens of my experience in law enforcement when I look at stuff like this, and I had the same concerns you did when you look at that, and, you know, I can probably give you an idea of a couple of words that would come out of my mouth if I got dispatched to a chicken bowl right before I keyed up the radio. So I understand where you're coming from, Frankie, and I think that, you know, while chickens may not go out at night, there's gonna be times when our animal control officer won't be able to respond, and it will end up falling on you guys to respond to that.
You probably have more chances of a porcupine coming into your yard. At least that's our personal experience.
Yeah.
And they're not easy to catch either.
Yeah, chickens are very territorial. They're gonna stay near their coop. I mean, my family's got 40 or 50 of them out at the farm, and they open the coop up, and then they close the coop up at night, and they don't have to, you know, where's Ted? Ted the chicken's not here. You know, they're all accounted for. They all have their specific place where they want to go. I don't know, this is how they operate.
Okay, does anybody have any changes or other thoughts on the ordinance that they wish to speak up about? essentially the ordinance that we have in front of us,
Barring the
with the
two,
additions of the Musquith fencing yard, and that the initial inspection is the only inspection that's needed, is what we would be looking at if we were to vote on it.
I think if it passes, it's an ordinance that we develop that makes sense.
Okay, and that being said, if it is what we are going to move forward with, if we want to move forward with, anybody like to make a motion to approve this ordinance?
Can we have it for formal action for next meeting, or do we have to have it?
you can move it to formal action now if we would like.
Yeah, we can do it tonight. It doesn't have to be under formal action on the agenda for us to make formal action on it. I just kind of feel like if this is the exact writing that we would address next week, we might as well go ahead and address it tonight, unless you guys would wish to take a couple more weeks to consider it and think about it.
I think we've probably talked about it long enough. I think if we're ready to take a vote, people deserve to hear what we have to say.
And the commission is right that they can move it for formal action. Since there are a lot of people that have talked about it, to say that it's actually acted upon. It's just giving them notice to say that it's going to be acted upon. That was the only thing I'd say about it.
Okay, well, I will go ahead and make a motion to approve the ordinance regarding the chickens, with the changes being that it must include a fenced-in yard under section 2, and that the inspection will be only with the initial application fee under section 7. Would anybody care to second?
Second?
Have a second by Commissioner Myers. Any other further discussion? Roll, please.
Howard.
It had to be somebody. Yeah.
I'll go yes.
Redlin,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Showalter,
No.
Thompson.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. I know this has been a long, hard discussion, and I feel like as far as an ordinance goes and what our qualifications are within it is about as best as we could expect to come up with. So thank you, everybody, including all the staff that put in work on this. I appreciate all your hard work. Okay, on that, let's move into reports. Kent, start with you.
Just a reminder, commissioners, next week we will have a joint meeting with the county commission. It'll be at the Wallach building,
What time is that?
5:30.
5:30 again? Okay.
I'm 99.5% sure.
Yeah.
I've got in my calendar.
That sounds right, but
Correct.
yes.
And hopefully this is the last special thing on Mondays for a while, so.
Have we even had a Monday off yet this year? I don't know.
No, I usually the next two are coming up. But we'll have the information that we had gathered from last meeting to them and be able to have a good discussion with them, so. We did have a pre-construction meeting with the 17th Street project. Andrew's here to, they're looking at starting, not this week, but the following week, a week from Wednesday on the 13th. And Andrew, if you want to take it away from there.
So yeah, the earliest they're gonna look at starting and shutting things down would be the 13th. Like Ken said, on Wednesday, the latest is gonna be the 18th. For sure, the latest will be the 18th. If they push it back any further, they start getting into the liquidated damage days that we had for this project to be completed by June 15th of this year before wheat harvest hit. So we didn't impact that. Jerry Nemechek in our office has already been down through there and talked to all the businesses. If somebody hears that somebody hasn't been spoken to down there, let us know. But now that we know that it's the 13th, Wednesday again, we'll send him back out and have them just say, hey, we've got a week now coming up that, before construction starts.
So the detour signs will start going up the day before that.
We'll probably put them, they'll probably put them up on the 13th before they start.
On the 13th.
So, we don't really have a specified detour. I didn't really want to lock everybody in town into one specific roadway. But, so, you know, you'll see down on Cattle Trail and then also back on Main Street, road closed ahead. As you get further down, road closes through traffic, and then when you get to the site where we're actually working, it'll be barricaded completely off, coned along Schooler's Lot that says road closed. And all the side streets will still have that same signage as well, back a block, road closed or road work ahead. So.
Awesome.
Thank you.
They're working specifically with Schooler as far as the truck route. They're keeping the entrance to Schooler back between Kansas and Montana onto their property. And then they'll be able to exit the property onto where Main Street ends and turns around at.
Yeah, 95% of the project's gonna be done in one phase, and the last half of that entrance is gonna be done in our second phase, the last 5%. So just that way, those guys could have a continual route in and out of there to be able to move their grain as they need to.
And they'll need to be done by June 15th, correct?
Yep.
So it'll be a fairly quick project, but it is only 4 blocks technically, 3.5, but the half is really the same size as the other 3 blocks, so. It's 4 blocks total, but that'll be all concrete, they'll be tearing it out. And they worked out the different things as far as where they're taking it as well, so. It doesn't matter that we said it here, it'll, the day of, when those signs go up, we'll get contacted again, but we'll work through it, so. But any questions, concerns regarding 17th Street?
I don't think so.
I hope construction goes slow because we had too much rain. I hope we have slow construction because we've had too much rain.
Knock on wood, just as soon as the pavement comes out.
That's how you break a drought. Open up the street.
Start tearing up pavement.
The other construction project out at the airport runway, the Crosswind runway, they are starting. They have their plant set up and they should have started tearing out pavement today or?
So today they actually went out and set out the traffic control to shut down 523 the Crosswind. Tomorrow, pending a couple of, they had a couple of issues with their mill machine. They're gonna go through and chew all the asphalt up because we're reusing that in the base. Pending some fixes to that, they're supposed to be starting tomorrow on the pavement removal just on the west end. So we aren't worried about jumping over to the east yet.
Okay, cool.
That'll be the phase 1 of the project, basically everything west of the main runway. They will shut down the airport for 20 days for a short section, it's 100 feet, I think, on the east side of the main runway. That'll be the time to take out the pavement, get the base done, pour it, and let it cure. So they haven't set that exact time frame yet because they'll wait until they see what their progress is on the west portion. But that's the schedule for that at this point regarding the airport runway construction project. And we are are still accepting planning commission applications. We have 2 members that you guys have appointed, still looking at 3 more openings to get that filled. We have the entire builders, construction advisory, whatever the name of that word is before. Trades and
Yeah,
Appeals.
the trade, yeah.
Construction Advisory Board of Trades and Appeals, that's what it is. And Jeff has, the building official, has set a meeting for,
The sixth.
on the 6th this week for the first meeting of that board.
Awesome.
So that will get started with that. So that's all I have at this. The highlight, other than just the regular communication. That's good.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Ken? Oh, all right, thank you. Okay, commissioner reports. We will start on my left, down here with Commissioner Redlin.
Jaleesa, she reached out to me about the housing committee. We're gonna be meeting sometime mid-month, 14th. We got a couple of dates that we're trying to determine that works best for everybody. So that should be happening shortly. So I'll keep you guys in the loop there. I assume you're gonna be a part of that?
Yes, sir.
Great, thank you.
I wanted to make you nervous.
Other than that, thank you to all staff. Appreciate everything you guys do.
Commissioner Hubbard,
I don't have anything at the moment.
Commissioner Myers,
I'm the same, no comment.
Commissioner Showalter.
So we had the opportunity, was it last week, to take a tour of city facilities, and I had made the comment a couple of different places we stopped that part of living in Goodland should be a requirement that you visit the wastewater treatment plant and the power plant and all the facilities that we went to. The things that you guys are doing there are incredible. 90% of the stuff over my head. But the things that are going on at those places are incredible, and I think if most of the people that lived here had any idea the kind of work that you put in and the knowledge that you guys have, they would understand why we have to do everything to make sure we keep good employees in the positions that they're in. And that was one thing that I said several times over the summer when we were trying to run for these positions was we need to figure out a way to make sure good people stay in those positions and are appreciated. So thank you guys for what you do. And it wasn't 100% for sure what you did before, but I know I have a pretty good idea now, and thank you. It's appreciated. End of report.
Okay. For Mayor's report, I was pretty much going to say the exact same thing he said. Thank you everybody who was involved with putting that tour together for us. It was very enlightening for a lot of us to really see what all goes on in all those different places. So yes, thank you guys for your hard work and for showing us around at all the different facilities. On that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
By Commissioner Redlin, have a second? Second by Commissioner Showalter. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.